Hi, welcome to Table Talk. I'm your host, Karen Wilson. We have a great show for you today. My guest is Mr. Spike Hosch from BetterFi. BetterFi is a 501c3 that gives affordable credit to help people out of predatory loans. And they also provide coaching and free income tax filing. So welcome to the show, Spike.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
I am just fascinated that you all have started a 501c3 to help people because Lord knows we have a lot of places, check into cash type places and stuff like that. So people need help getting away from that type of loan. Start out by telling us what a predatory loan is and who some of these companies are targeting.
Sure, yeah. And I mean, everyone has their own definition, right? You know, I'll talk to some folks who will have borrowed $100,000 in a student loan and say, is that predatory? And it can be, right? Sure. If you can't, any loan you can't pay is going to be predatory in some ways if you can't afford it. But so what we really talk about, or we deal with, the predatory loans I talk about have effective APRs of 200 to 300 to 400%, and we can talk about what that means. But usually they're marketed to people as short-term loans for folks who can't access credit through like a bank or a credit card, anyone like that. So folks who either don't have credit, they haven't built it, or they have bad credit. When they're in a bind, they have to go to one of these, what I call predatory loans, predatory lenders, to get some kind of chunk of money to pay for a bill, to repair their car, to catch up on lights, whatever it is, right?
So I noticed that you all have kind of three different types of these. It can be a flex loan, which I don't know what that is. You'll have to tell me. And then a title loan and pay early loan. So tell me about those three things.
Sure. Yeah. So there's kind of three big buckets they fall in, and historically they were payday and title loans. That's what a lot of people know are kind of as the bad ones, right? And so those are really structured usually as 1 month loans, but when you enter into that agreement, you're actually agreeing to pay off the whole thing plus the interest and fees in 1 month. Most people who take one of those out can't do that, and so they renew it or roll it over again and again, and so the interest and fees get tacked on each time. A flex loan is kind of a newer thing, and to me it's especially pernicious because people think of it as like just a personal loan, but actually the interest and fee rate is the same amount as a title loan. And so the real way you can tell which one's predatory or not, you know, you can kind of gauge based on interest rates, things like that. But a lot of these loans will advertise an interest rate. What they don't advertise is the fees. And whenever you sign up for one of these things, the one thing that has to be disclosed is the APR. And so that's annual percentage rate, but that includes all the interest and all the fees. And so like a payday loan can be as high as 460%, a title loan 264%, and a flex loan 280%. And the flex loans are bad because they're just as expensive, but it's like a credit line. So you can pay on it and reborrow it, pay on it, reborrow, and you might never get out of it, right?
Yeah, that sounds like an endless cycle right there because, I mean, for anybody, it's easy to say, okay, I'm going to even borrow money from my savings and I'm going to put it back whenever I get paid. But that's easier said than done.
Easier said than done, yeah.
Because we always find something else to spend the money on. It's just human nature, really.
And I think there's a recent study that came out that something like 60% of Americans don't have $1,000 to fall back on. And so, I mean, if you're in a position where you have to fix that car or buy those tires or replace a fridge or whatever it is, if you don't have any savings, you need to go borrow it from somewhere. And if you don't have a good enough credit score, by the time you need credit, it's too late to build it, right?
Right.
And so if you don't have the credit score that you'll need to get a loan from a bank or an online lender, then the only option is to go to one of these places. And, you know, it's easy for us to say, like, don't go borrow a 200% APR loan. But if I'm juggling between repairing my car to keep going to work so I can pay for my lights and rent versus borrowing this money, I'm probably going to borrow the money and kick the can down the road.
Right, and just hope that when your income tax return comes back or something like that, that you can pay it off. But that's, you know, part of the trap, I guess. Tell us how BetterFi came into existence.
Sure, yeah. So we're a 501c3 nonprofit, right? So that means we don't have any shareholders. but we started initially as a program through Sewanee and AmeriCorps. And so AmeriCorps is like Peace Corps, but locally, if that means anything to you. So all over the United States, usually recent college graduates will go spend a year or two serving like a community or fighting wildfires or building trails. And so this kind of came out of that. The South Cumberland Community Fund, which is like a nonprofit grant giving organization up on the mountain, they and AmeriCorps and Sewanee kind of paired together, and I came to start this organization. It really grew out of talking with churches and local nonprofits that were in the area, especially in Grundy County and Franklin County. There were churches that were making loans to people to try and like pay for tires or keep their light bill on. And churches don't want to be in that business.
Right.
It's not sustainable. A church doesn't want to go chasing that down, right?
Yeah, right.
And so multiple churches, not just here, but all across the state, have started exploring how to work with credit unions or banks to make what they would call microloan funds. So they'd give a bank, say, $20,000, and the bank would manage the fund, but the church can then decide, okay, 1,000 to this person to help them catch up on their bills, 500 to this person to help fix their car, whatever it is, right?
Right.
And so churches were kind of doing this organically. And when I came back initially as an AmeriCorps, I was looking around the state especially to see, okay, what nonprofit finance companies are doing and where's the gap. And so the other thing we are, besides just a 501c3, is a CDFI, so
Okay.
Community Development Financial Institution. And all that really means is that most of our clients are low income. And so there are other CDFIs in Tennessee, but most of them focus on like affordable housing, small businesses, and then kind of niche things like
Right.
new market tax credits. The missing piece to me was that there was no one doing what I call consumer lending. So no one doing the personal loans, the small loans for people who are just trying to get by or weather an expense to keep going.
Yeah, that does sound like it was probably a gap there, because you do
Yeah.
have people that are helping with housing and things like that. But to pull it back a little bit to the resident, to the person and their weekly needs and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Accessing a home loan is important, right? There's a
Right.
whole bunch of people who you're not making enough money to pay for a home or save for the down payment. You're just trying to pay for rent, keep the roof over your head, pay for your food. And in that kind of situation, taking out a predatory loan, sometimes hundreds of dollars a month, is then going in interest and fees to a loan that you're never going to pay off.
Right. Wow. Now, have you all, I guess, since your existence, I know you all are in Grundy County, but you all are going into kind of trying to spread maybe into Hamilton a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So technically we can serve anyone in Tennessee.
Okay.
So we have actually a couple clients from like Memphis. We have a couple from Johnson City, some folks from Anderson County, but our office is in Grundy County. And so one of our early partners was Tower Community Bank.
Yes.
And so they had actually built a branch in Colmont a few years before 2008, I guess, so right before the financial crisis. And so it was kind of sitting there empty, and so they let us use that building. So if you've been to Colmont, we're at the junction. There's only
Yes.
one light there, right?
Yeah,
So,
oh, yes. Everybody got a Subway there now.
there's a Subway there now. Yeah, there's a Subway. There's 2 gas stations, so very exciting.
Yeah. It's
But
kind
yeah.
of the trail you hit left to Grootley and right to the high school and straight on to Tracy City. So
Yeah, but
it's
so our building is there in Grundy County.
yeah, I know right where you're talking about
But
there on the corner.
We can field calls from anyone across the state. We have an online application that people can go through. You can even text our office number. So if you don't know if this works or makes sense, or you just want financial advice before you sign something, they can text us, and it goes to our office numbers. So
That's awesome. So anywhere in the state. So that
Anywhere in
means
the state,
anybody
yeah.
in our service
Yeah.
territory can call and get some help from you guys.
Mm-hmm.
So give us a scenario of like, okay, I'm in a pinch and I take out a $500 loan at a Payday or a title loan company.
Yeah.
What does that look like in the end?
yeah, and I'm going to go through. I got my cheat sheet here.
Yes.
My crib sheet. It can get kind of complicated, but so I'm going to give a few scenarios, I think, and that you can kind of walk through different situations. The first thing is that when we first got going about 5 years ago, we thought most of our loans would be $500. What we're seeing is that more and more folks are borrowing either multiple loans or larger loans. And so our average loan size is more like $2,000. And so it's a lot bigger chunk. And when you frame $500 loans, it might sound not too bad. But when you talk about what people are actually borrowing, it starts to seem much worse. So, for example,
Okay.
if you borrow a $1,500 loan, and we'll do flex loan because it's not as bad as a payday loan, a little bit worse than a title loan, so it's kind of right in the middle. The interest and fees per month on that $1,500 loan are about $350. So that means per month. So that means I borrow $1,500, I pay $350 next month, and how much do I owe? $1,500 still.
I was going to say the balance.
So the whole amount, right? So if I paid $350 per month for a whole year, that works out to over $4,000, and I still owe $1,500, right?
Wow.
And so one
And
thing
350 is a lot of
it's
money.
a lot of money. I mean, if you are working, if you're on like Social Security disability, that's a third of what you're making per month, right? I think it's 900 some odd dollars now is for Social Security, right? In Grundy County, at least that's what we see. So a third of your income is going to not pay this thing down at all. And of course, even if you're working, it can be a huge chunk. And it's not just that 1 month, but it's again and again. And so you're spending, think about what you could spend $4,000 on
Oh, right.
instead of just being stuck in a $1,500 loan the entire time. So a lot of times what the flex lenders will do is they'll set a minimum payment, which theoretically pays down the loan by 3% each month. Of course, it's 3% of what you owed the month before. So even if you pay the minimum payment forever, you don't get out of it, right? Because 3% of what you owed last month, next month 3% of what you owed the month before. So it's getting smaller, but it's like back in middle school math or high school math when you're like cutting it by 3% each time, you don't ever hit zero, you know what I mean? But so on a $1,500 loan, flex loan, the minimum payment usually would be about $395. You pay $395 and you're only paying down that loan by what? $35, something like that.
Right.
And so
Takes a long time.
Again, the 360 is going to interest and fees. With BetterFi, when we do it, 395 would pay down the loan $360, if that makes sense. So if you are stuck in one of these things, really you should have to pay an insane amount extra to get out of it. To actually get out of a $1,500 flex loan, you'd have to make payments equaling, let's see, $4,568 over the course of a year to get out of it, which is multiple
And that's
times
a
the
lot
$1,500.
on $1,500. And I understand why people are asking for more because home repairs have gone up. Say your fridge goes out. I mean, they're expensive. All of
Everything's
those things.
getting more expensive, right?
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
is.
And so, and especially if you're already paying $350 a month on this flex loan, inevitably something else will happen, right? And so then what do? You can't just pay off this flex loan and then deal with it. You know, if you have a car breakdown in January, that doesn't mean something else won't go wrong in August.
Right.
And so then what ends up happening is someone goes to borrow again or increase how much they're borrowing. And a flex loan, you can borrow up to $4,000. And so if you borrow $4,000, the monthly interest and fees is $933. So you're paying
Wow.
almost $1,000 every month to not even pay it down. So really there's not a viable way out unless suddenly you get $1,500 plus the $350. So if you suddenly get your tax return and have $2,000, then you can get out. But otherwise you're just stuck.
Right. And that's, not always something we can bank on.
Almost never, right?
Right,
Yeah.
right. So tell us, I guess, how BetterFi goes beyond just the loan into financial coaching to help people learn and educate themselves.
Yeah, sure. So we kind of think about it in two ways, right? The credit we offer, which I can talk about in a second, is like the intervention. And so that's things are already bad. Let's step in there, see if we can make this better. The other part is more foundational. So it's like financial coaching, free tax prep, things that hopefully help people put themselves in a position to not need a predatory loan. So the coaching, we have like 8 modules. Mostly we do it with groups. So like at churches, with employers, with some work readiness programs in Chattanooga. We do it in the Grundy County Jail. We do it with Mosaic. I don't know if y'all know Mosaic over in Pelham. So this really covers everything from cash flow analysis, like budgeting, to learning about credit scores, learning about types of debt, about saving, the whole gamut, right? And so that's really preparing people with the knowledge they need to make informed decisions. Because there are people who will borrow a payday loan and they have the money to pay it off in 1 month. And so it's expensive, but it works for them, right? But this is making sure to understand what someone's signing up for, how to parse APR and know what it's going to cost before they get into that situation. We also do the tax program. And so we're the only VITA site, so Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program in Grundy, Franklin. There's another one in Marion. We're in Bedford and more in Coffee County we've been in the past. And so for those, usually we go to libraries and file people's taxes for free.
Wow.
And so the benefit of that is no one pays the fee to file.
And that can get expensive
They
too.
also don't get upcharged, and also they don't borrow anything. Because sometimes you'll go file your taxes and they'll say you can get that refund today, but it's only going to be X $100, $300, $200. Usually when you file someone's taxes, it's direct deposit within 2 weeks. So to spend $200 or $300 to get your money back 2 weeks early is a lot of that refund, right?
Right, yes.
The last thing that we're about to start, and hopefully will be live by the end of the month, is a credit builder program. And so this also is on like the foundational side, right? So if someone wants to build their credit, they want to build some savings, but they don't want to, they're not in a payday loan, they don't have an expense they need to deal with. We're creating a program where someone can come to us, we'll park money, like let's say $500, $1,000 in an account. Person pays us towards that. Once they hit that milestone, they get the $500 or 1,000. But by doing it this way, we can report to credit bureaus. So they can build their
You're
credit
building,
while building
yes.
towards their savings. And there's no risk to them because if they can't pay it back, we just pull that money back. And so that's another thing we're trying to start doing soon called credit building, which I think will be really good. And so people can prepare to hopefully not need a payday or title loan. Yeah.
Well, I think it's so nice to have too. You see all kinds of commercials on TV trying to help people out of debt problems and things like that, but you think, what's the hook for
Yeah.
them?
Yeah.
You know, can I trust that company? But with you all being local, a 501c3, you all are truly trying to help people solve problems and not profiting from
Yeah.
it yourself.
And there are lots of scams out there. I mean, we'll see people who sign up for like credit or debt repair programs they found on Instagram maybe, and they're paying hundreds of dollars a month to repair their credit and nothing's happening, right? And so there are lots of scams out there. And, you know, it's something that we have to overcome. We have to like do a balancing act, right? Because you can walk into a payday title flex lender and walk out with money probably an hour later.
Right.
Our process is going to be more involved. Basically, when someone comes to us, if whether they're looking for help with like a car repair expense or looking for help refinancing a payday loan, we look at everything that they're spending, right? So what's your income? What are you spending on essential expenses? What are you spending on your debts? And then we make sure that if we can refi this piece, will you be better off? Are you going to save more money per month, actually get out of it in a reasonable amount of time? Because we don't want to extend credit or give a loan to someone if it's not going to actually help them out.
Right.
We don't want to just make another thing for people to worry about, another bill for people to worry about.
Right, right.
So really we do what's called an ability to pay test. And we say, okay, like Spike's coming in, he's paying on this credit card, and he's got this payday loan, and he's paying however much for rent. After all those expenses, if BetterFi can refinance Spike's payday loan, he'll save $200 a month, actually be out in a year, his credit score will improve. It works for everybody. If it looks like even refinancing that payday loan, Spike still has negative income, like I'm still spending more than is coming
Right.
in, then BetterFi doesn't do anything with that, right? We can help do coaching, we can refer people to credit counseling, stuff like that, but there's a more kind of like foundational issue than just refinancing.
Right.
something.
You've got to figure out a way to either get more income coming in or
Yeah.
spend less
Yeah.
or do something.
But it is a hurdle, right? We had a daughter of a client actually call us, and so we helped her out. Her mom had been stuck in this title loan for 2 years. So I forgot how much she borrowed, like around $2,000, I think, for Christmas presents, right? And so over the year and a half or whatever it was, she had paid over $8,000 in interest and fees, and she actually owed more than $2,000. So she had paid 4 times the amount of the loan, owed more than she borrowed, and had been paying on it every month for however many months, right? And so we were able to go in and say, oh, she's going to save like $300 a month if we refinance it. She'll be out in a year. She'll be done. We can benefit her credit score. So we did it, refinanced it, and almost immediately her daughter called, and she was like, what's the catch, right?
Yeah.
So my mom's been paying $500 and change every month on this for 2 years. She's going to pay you $209.
And how's
and
yeah,
she's going to be done
yeah.
in a year, like after she's been paying off for 2 years. And it's true, but yeah, we're a nonprofit. Our goal is to be a viable way for people to get out of that trap if they are serious about getting out of that trap. That doesn't mean it takes longer for us to look at everything. We want to work with people, talk about their budget, all that stuff. But we want them to, after a year, be in a position where they're benefiting from all the savings. They're out of
Right.
the loan. They have better credit, and they can work towards a financial future that's more sustainable.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can tell if it's a longer process, that's good because there's
Yeah.
education going into it,
Yeah.
really thought going into it. When you all say you're refinancing for a flex loan or something like that, do you all take the money and pay it to the loan company yourself? You're
We
not
do.
giving
Yeah.
the person the check. And I mean, you
Yeah.
know, that's just the best way to do
It's
it.
a little paternalistic, I think, right? But we don't do any kind of cash loans for new clients. So if Spike comes and has a loan at Easy Quick Cash and Easy Quick Title or whatever, BetterFi, what we'll do if Spike gets approved is kind of figure out, okay, how much is it increasing per day? Figure out what the payoff amount is as of a certain day. Because on these flex loans, the amount can be changing by $10, $20, $30, $40 a day, right? So it can be changing quickly.
Right.
So we'll get payoff amounts, do our paperwork, and usually give cashier's checks or money orders to the applicant, the client, to go make those payoffs so they can get out of it. But the check's usually made in the lender's name. And the same thing with like car repairs, with tires, that kind of stuff. If you're a new client, we're going to cut a check or a money order to whoever's providing the service. But once we know somebody and they've demonstrated they're going to repay us, they're going to be reliable, they'll be communicative if something happens, then we can do cash loans. So we help people with stuff like if they need to buy something at Home Depot to fix their house, or they need a new AC unit or refrigerator, that kind of stuff. Once we know someone, no big deal, right?
Right. Oh, that's great to know. So, talking about, I guess, the tax season coming up and all of that, and we touched on the tax prep and stuff like that. Now, people have to qualify by they can't make over 65,000 a year.
65,000 a year.
Okay.
Yeah. So either if you're a veteran, if you're disabled, if you make less than 65,000, or if you're a senior, you qualify. And we have a little bit of wiggle room there, but just most of the folks that go through have to meet one of those things. And so the best way to keep in touch with us about that is to just find us on Facebook or find our website, because basically in mid-January, we'll publish a schedule. And so we'll say like, okay, we're going to be at Shelbyville Library these days. We're going to be at, Lanham in Tullahoma these days. We'll be at Manchester these days, Franklin County Senior Center these days, whatever. And then each of those places actually coordinates the schedule. And so folks can call in, sign up for a slot, and then we come and knock them all out.
Is this more like if you're filling out an EZ form? It's not for somebody, I don't guess, that has complicated taxes.
It kind of depends on how complicated. We can do like self-employment. That's easy.
Okay.
We won't usually do like 1099-Bs. So if you have like stocks or different like equity type stuff you're doing, securities, we're not going to touch that.
Right.
But it can be pretty complicated. Usually we're trained to handle most anything that comes through the door.
Okay.
And then also, if someone wants to make a hike up to our office in Grundy County, we can schedule appointments there too.
Okay.
So someone can come by and just do their taxes in Grundy and Colmont. But I know it's a bit of a hike, so.
Well, not too bad. It's a beautiful drive, so
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can go up there and visit that beautiful area. So talk to me about, I guess, your partners that how is this possible, I
Yeah.
guess?
Well, yeah, we are a 501c3, so
right.
right now grants and donations help us go. We're hoping that at some point we can do enough loans, and we do charge interest, right? So we charge interest. We're hoping that we can do enough loans that we can reduce our reliance on grants and donations and eventually be self-sufficient. But right now we have a number of foundations, individual donors, different nonprofits, even some businesses like Lodge Cast Iron always gives us a small grant. So we rely on grants right now, donations. We generate revenue. But then also probably the most important partners are really the ones who refer people to us. So different United Ways, different churches, different banks, employers will send people to us if they find out about someone who's stuck in that situation.
Okay.
So like in Chattanooga, for instance, we have a part-time person there, and she rotates between 4 sites. So 2 nonprofits and 2 churches. Every Monday she's at this one, every Tuesday at that one. And so they have a space for her to meet clients, to help people talk through stuff, all that kind of stuff. And then if a church or a nonprofit or a bank sees someone who's stuck in one of these things and paying on it, maybe like you're a banker and you see this client who's getting overdrawn just by a little bit every month because they're stuck in this loan, they can refer people to us as well. And so referral partners are huge, as well as obviously donors and supporters.
So you all do, just to clarify, you do charge interest, but it's not going to be the interest rate that they're paying in the predatory loan.
Right.
It's fairly, it may be a little bit above what some people would pay if they went to a bank, but it's still going to help make them progress in getting out.
Absolutely, yeah. So we think of it as basically we charge a tenth of what a predatory lender charges. So it's not nothing, it's like a credit card rate, right? And the big difference also is that we only charge interest, we don't have any fees. So you might see an advertisement at Easy Quick Cash saying we only charge 30% in interest per year or 20% interest per year. But then there's usually a fee that's being charged every day too. So that real rate is more like 280%, right? And so on that $1,500 loan, for example, if someone wanted to have a flex loan on the $1,500 loan, they'd pay over $4,500. With us, they'd pay just over $1,700. So instead of, what is that, $3,000 in interest,
right,
it's more like $230 in interest.
Yeah.
And so it's way better. It gives us enough of a gap that some of our loans will go bad, and so we've got to cover those losses, right? And then also, as a CDFI, banks are incentivized to give us money to make loans, and that money that they're giving us is not a grant. That's money
Right.
we have to pay back.
We have to pay that back.
So we can't go to a bank and say, if you give us, $10,000, we promise to pay you back $9,000. They're not going to be okay with that.
Right.
And so we charge an amount that covers our losses, covers some of our operations, covers the cost that we pay capital basically coming in. And then ideally, it's enough that if we can grow, we'll be pretty sustainable and not
Well,
need to rely on grants and donations.
I hope you grow in the best way
Thank you,
possible,
yeah,
but you want it to be an education piece where people will not need you anymore. That's
Absolutely.
the good
If
thing.
we were a place without payday or title loans and we didn't need to exist, that's great. Part of being a nonprofit for us means also hopefully working ourselves out of the problem we're trying to solve.
Right.
I mean, at any given moment, there's probably $50 billion of payday and title loans outstanding in the United States. So I don't think we're going to work ourselves out of the problem.
Right.
But that'd be great, right? If everyone had access to loans that were priced like ours, we wouldn't need to exist and we could close up shop. It'd be fine.
Well, I'll say to our audience, if you know someone that's in a loan like that, or if yourself is, tempted to walk into one of, some of them even have drive-through windows. It
Yeah.
amazes me. But check with BetterFi first because you all are truly looking out for the person's best interest, trying to educate them and get them to be sustainable, I guess, themselves.
Yeah, and you can find out more information, right? So BetterFi, that's betterfi.com, .co, .org. Those all work.
Okay.
Those will show up on our website. You can read about us, check us out. And then if you want to go straight into an application, betterfi.app. So betterfi.app will open up our application. You can start filling it out. It has it's made to be self-done, so you can kind of do it on your own on your phone, go through the steps. Takes probably about 30 minutes to go through.
Right.
But yeah, or just give us a call, text us, call us. We have a Chattanooga number and a local number. And so we can talk you through whatever. We can see what's going on and see if it makes sense or give you advice on where else to go to deal with something. So
Okay. Well, great. We appreciate you
Thank
all
you.
and you stepping up to provide this service for those in our counties because it's truly needed.
Well, we appreciate Ben Lomond too.
Well-
we're at the junction and we have gigabit internet, and so we can monitor everything and do everything from Grundy County, which is really great.
Well, we love our Grundy County folks, but the great thing is you all service the entire state.
We do,
So
yeah.
if you're in Van Buren County, White County, Crossville, Cumberland, you're all eligible to partner with BetterFi. And I'll say thank you to our audience for joining us today. We hope you found this information great, and we hope you will come back again for more Table Talk.